Hello, this is Carrie from Two Rose Healing, and today I'm going to share with you this little PowerPoint on how to eat. I think when we first came in as children, I think we had a curiosity about food. I think, we tried and put things in our mouth and spit things out that we're building the taste buds, we're building the taste, but we quickly got conditioned with how we are expected to eat, what we're expected to eat, and I think we all kind of went asunder. There's some basic rhythms that I believe would be a good place to start as we unfold this, and it's based on the sun. The best times to eat, we get 3 opportunities a day. We get breakfast, we get lunch, and we get dinner. And this is all really during the waking hours. I mean, you can't eat while you're sleeping, of course, but we get 3 times a day, really. I mean, other than snacks, but we should have 3 windows of opportunity to get in nutrition. And again, this is based on the sun. We should eat, within about 30 minutes to an hour after waking up. And this little slide is just showing like ideal time, 7 to 8, no later than 10. But basically this is kind of skewed to where you live on the globe and what time of year it is. In the winter time, and then some places observe daylight savings time where the sunrise will be way different in some areas more than others. If you're in the closer to the poles, you're going to have way less sunlight different times a year, and for different periods than you are if you live closer to the equator. So you have to take this in mind for where you live on the globe. But you want breakfast sometime, early in the morning, pretty close to after waking up, because you have been fasting or resting your digestive tract all night. Now your digestive tract, if it's working correctly, should start to turn on and you should be hungry. You may have to retrain yourself to eat this way. So then you go 5-6 hours later and you have your lunch. It should be around noon, 11 to 12, 12:30, be a good time to eat lunch. And then a gap between that period of meals and a dinner meal, which should be sometime maybe between 5 and 8, I would say, depending on where you live and that whole bit again. But you want to have time to have the food digest out of your stomach before you go to bed. Now, interesting thing, I'm going to just say here a little bit about digestion. We often think that once we swallow the food, it's done, but that's when the work really begins. And other than chewing your food well and swallowing it, and making sure that it's digested in the mouth part, it's just begun when it hits your stomach. Fruits are in the stomach maybe 30 minutes to 40 minutes to an hour, depending on the fruit. Other foods are in, like heavy proteins and fats could be in the stomach for 3 hours or so. And then once it leaves the stomach, it goes into the first part of the small intestine. And right at that little juncture is where the gallbladder and the pancreas squirt their juices, their digestive juices, to further break the food down and start the process of absorbing it when it's in the small intestine. There's little villi, let's leave it at that start to pull off some of the food, the nutrients that you gained from eating that food. So your body's starting to pull off the vitamins, the minerals, the amino acids, to then put that into your body, and that's going into your bloodstream and you're starting to utilize it. But then there's a whole bunch of parts of that food that's getting moved out, and it enters your large intestine, also known as the colon, large bowel, and it's a big muscle. So the food is in both of those intestines. It's in the small intestine. Into small intestines are like 25 to 50 feet or so, and they're all coiled up in your gut there. And it's in there 6 to 10 hours. And then it's in your large bowel for, could be 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours. So there's several meals that are in your digestive tract, in your gut at one time. So as it moves through your large bowel, the body is absorbing all the extra water, electrolytes, different pigments, and it's, creating a stool. So by the time it's pulled all that out, it's formed a stool and it exits the body. That's the normal routine of what happens when you eat, when you put it down the hatch. So there's a rhythm that the body likes to make this happen well, all over all the courses of eating 3 meals a day in and day out for 90 years in your life. So when we go to bed, your body needs to rest. That whole digestive system needs to stop, needs to not digest, because it's been digesting all day. It's been working all day. Come on, I ate breakfast, I lunch, and dinner, and give me a dessert. I want to rest. So it's, that's why it's important to finish eating fairly early and let your body say like 7 or 8 o'clock. And then, you get up 6 or 7 o'clock and you eat then, you go 11, 12 hours, 13 hours, however, to, you rest all night, and then you get up to break the fast and you start eating all over again. So this is the way it should roll, amigos, amigas, amigos. And the next rule that I like to follow is eating what's in season and what grows in your area. It just makes sense to eat local and eat seasonal. There's flavor and mineral content and omega-3 content when in these foods, and the terrain and the soil and the climate all add their influence to that food. That food has to grow in that area. It's suited, that plant and those animals are suited to that climate. It's suited to hot and dry. It's suited to hot and wet. It's suited to cold and wet. It's suited to long winters. It's suited to long summers. There's plants and animals that have adapted to that all over the globe, and that's what makes it all special and unique and fun. But you have to honor what grows in your area. So I like the idea of using locally but flavor globally. Using pepper or cinnamon and some things to flavor and season, and use those, but eat and use what's growing in your area. Also think about this, the mineral content of the soil is growing plants and animals that are, that mineral content is going to balance those plants and animals. So that's what you need to be in harmony with your area. When you're eating, if you're in New York and you're eating bananas and avocados thinking you're healthy, and your soy lattes and avoiding meat, that is not a match for that climate, and you will not be healthy. Same if you're living, in other places in a mismatch. If you're living on the equator and you're eating heavy meat and dairy and not eating, enough fresh fruits and vegetables, you're going to be out of sync with that area. And the different mineral contents of those areas help balance the people, again, that live in that area. Local foods provide the necessary nutrients for that particular climate. And it's affordable and supports local industry. We should be eating, and supporting the people and the farmers, and it shouldn't be huge mega farms. It should be this, this guy who's growing peaches and he's got, some pepper plants and green beans, and some carrots on here. And then that guy over there's got the cucumbers and onions that he's bringing. And then that guy's got, he's bringing some fresh butchered meats. And then this one's got fresh eggs. That's how it should be. That's what will sustain life. All the waste products for all those animals is fertilizer for the crops. This chickens too, it's kind of a whole cycle. The cows and animals like that graze in the grass. They eat the long grass, and they poop, and that goes into into the soil. And then the chickens come along and they scratch that out. They dig the bugs that now start to crawl in some of that, and they eat that, the little proteins that, that are breaking down in the soil. And then, they lay eggs, and then that's part of the process. And then that chicken poop fertilizes the soil as well. It's nitrogen based. It's reusing the minerals, from that area, and that just keeps going back into this whole cycle. All right, planning your meals and having a natural rhythm. I don't personally write them out, but I kind of have an idea of what I'm going to do. It's like, okay, I'm going to buy, it's cold this week. I'm going to buy some potatoes, make some stews. I'll have some hash with that. I might bake a couple and maybe make some potato salad. Just you kind of use something as a theme, all the way through. Sometimes, you buy a chicken. Okay, I'm going to bake it, and then I'm going to make chicken salad out of it. And then I'm going to use the carcass. I'm going to make bone broth. Or I got a bumper crop of tomatoes. I'm gonna have a nice big tomato, and I'm gonna stuff it, and we'll have it for dinner or lunch. I'll stuff it with something, and then I got a whole bunch of them, so I'm gonna blend some, and then maybe put it in freezer bags so I can have some fresh blended tomatoes. I might cook some down into spaghetti sauce. I might make some salsa. So, you might go at a farmer's market and they got a deal on them. They're all right. You got to use them today. So you might be processing tomatoes. You might can some. You might make tomato soup. Okay. Food ideas. I think it's important to keep yourself, up on some food ideas, whether you buy some books, you look on the internet, you watch some cooking shows, you go Google some images like that and get some ideas, and substitute certain things, for your area, climate, time of year, and tastes, where you're at with your diet and nutrition too. Seasonal foods, there's definitely a cycle of how things roll. And again, a lot of it is dependent on where you live in the climate. In the wintertime, you'll find more, there'll be more root vegetables, potatoes, sweet potatoes available. There'll be winter squashes. There'll be turnips, beets, beet tops, kale. Kale grows in the wintertime. You'll maybe have cabbages. You'll be using apples and stone fruit. Now, if you live in Florida in the wintertime, you'll have a different climate or palette of food. In Florida, we have our citrus. We got avocados ripening. We get greens. We got collards happening. We got kale. We've got maybe we got new potatoes. We get of course, we have bananas and plantains and different varieties of bananas and mangoes coming out. So that is our, radishes also. That is our winter time things. And in the summer in Florida, where up north you got a lot of cucumbers and lettuces and melons and all that. In Florida, our time of year, it's getting really hot. So there's a lot of things, lettuce and stuff is gone. It's gone. You can't grow greens like that, but you can get that big slimy Malabar spinach. You can grow the yard-long asparagus beans. You can grow okra. You can grow some varieties of peppers and tomatoes. You can grow the bitter melons. All those types. There are certain types of things that you can grow in that climate. You got to look for, type Asian things that handle the heat and humidity. In the spring, you've got the asparagus. That's a spring crop. We should eat that mainly in the spring. Strawberries are a spring crop. Strawberries are one of the first fruits that come out in the spring, and it's very high in sodium. Sodium is a natural alkalizer. It's a cleanser. It's one of the first things that starts the cleansing process after the long winter type foods, strawberries and other berries. So that's these types of foods. One thing leads into another. Then the spring. Then we have asparagus. Like I was saying, asparagus makes you pee off excess stuff. You're peeing off all kinds of stuff. You ever smell your pee after you've eaten asparagus? Or some people can smell it, some people can't. But there's a definite, enzyme that some people can break down or not. But it's a very good kidney cleanser, asparagus. And that's, you want to cleanse out a lot of the stuff, maybe from the heavy things, oxalates of foods that you've eaten all winter. So there's a natural rhythm of why you eat things, from one season to the next. All right. There is some really weird stuff coming out bug foods. These are all foods from bugs. These are, bug bar, protein bar, refuel with insects, Jiminy's. Oh boy, have some Jiminy's, crickets, mealworms, garlic and herb. Oh, yum. Insect the burger, breakfast bugs. Oh my goodness. Get up, Brandon. Come and have your breakfast bugs. Oh dear. See, I thought at first this might be a good idea, but no, it is not. And the reason is that bugs have an exoskeleton. Their skin is something called chitin, chitin, and it is you can't digest it. And it's harmful to us. It's harmful to our gut. It's a gut disruptor. It will then be a gut brain disruptor. It's hard on the immune system. It's not something we want to eat. Also, stay away from these corporate foods, GMO foods, fake meat products, insect-based or other frankenfoods. Now, there's a lot of these fake meat products, and I've been through the gamut on this. I was a vegan, a vegetarian. I went through this. I know from a personal point of view and from being a clinical practitioner for over 30 years that this is not a good idea. These weird Beyond Meat, soy chorizo, Impossible Burgers, this is all garbage. This is all highly processed crap. Years ago, I made my own seitan, which was this was even before the highly GMO laden, Roundup laden wheat that we have. But what you did was, you make this dough out of wheat and you rinse out all the starch and all the bran until you get this gluey mass of protein. Then you boil it forever. You boil it in some soy sauce, and then you cut it up and you fry it and bake it and eat it and put it in fake things and this. I'm like, holy camoli, it was horrible. I mean, you can make it taste good. You make it taste like anything, I thought it was, doing the right thing. You go into health path, down the health path, and there's this stupid stuff out there, and it, leads you down some bad rabbit holes. So anyway, this is not a good thing. The only thing I would recommend here, maybe a couple things, jackfruit, they probably are using that just because it has maybe meaty texture. Tofu, also similar. Tofu and tempeh. I would say tempeh I would probably allow because that is fermented. The Indonesian area, Philippines, Indonesia, where that food came out of was soy or other beans that they had, or other grains that they fermented. They would naturally just ferment them, and they put them in hibiscus leaves and they let it ferment like other cultures did with cheese. So we've bastardized it now, and we use, organic, tempeh or 3-grain or soy tempeh. It was a byproduct of whatever they had, and they sometimes threw fish heads or, galanga root or whatever in it, and it was fermented. So it was a good product. It was something good. And if you tend to be, if you are into more the vegetarian side, this is something that would be helpful, although I have seen that not be good. Definitely not vegan, but you can dance around. Certain people can better than others into vegetarianism. But anyway, and then tofu, if that's again made from soy, and beans are very challenging. They're not only challenging to the gut, but they're challenging to the immune system. Certain ones, but that's another PowerPoint. But if you're going to have this organic and sprouted, the soybean could be sprouted, and then really tofu is just, you're making a soy milk, and then you're making a curd out of that milk. If you use it in your diet, but not as a replacement for meat, I think it's fine. We're the top of the food chain, so we could eat all kinds of stuff, but doesn't mean we should or we have to. It would be good for you. If it's that or some bad junk food, eat the organic tofu. Okay, I think I've talked about that good enough. Also, just say no to GMO. Genetically modified foods are no good, and it's kind of good to find out. And if you basically go with organic or heirloom, you're going to do pretty good. But some of these big food crops, like if you're not getting organic strawberries, they're going to be sprayed and genetically modified. Celery is a hard crop to grow. It takes a long time. So that one's under the pesticide side. But other things, canola is genetically modified, cotton, corn, wheat are highly genetically modified. Honey, I don't know what I would say about this like little list here. I would think the bees are stressed, and then it's toxic, a lot of it, if it's not in certain areas, because of all the spraying that they're doing. But one other thing about foods, before we get that, certain foods, let me just say, hybridization doesn't always mean genetically modified. Plant growers hybridize all the time. What that really means is, like, if I have, say, a large purple tomato, maybe it's like beefsteak purple tomato, Cherokee purple, or something, one of them, and if I say that's a daddy plant, and I cross pollinate it with a cherry tomato mama plant, the seeds from that, what I really would be hoping for would be purple cherry tomatoes. But if I planted that, some of those seeds would be purple cherry tomatoes, some would be cherry tomatoes, and some would be purple big ones. If I keep breeding those, I'll eventually create the purple cherry tomatoes that I want. And if you do that long enough, you'll eventually have a hybrid which will breed true. Now, an heirloom plant, which will be a true one. If I take that seed, it will always be then those purple cherry tomatoes. So what a hybrid is like, I've taken that and taken the mom and daddy, and we've made the baby plant to be maybe resistant to certain things. So sometimes, they can be okay. It just depends. Let me just say that, but they're not the same. I just wanted to make sure I explain that. Now, a couple more things before we get into foods. Fats. Fats are a huge topic because bad fats are just pawned off on us, and they are very inflammatory to the gut, to the blood vessels, so much. And they're also they're source of those omega-6 fatty acids. We really want omega-3s. But here's where they'll rip off the people or tell you the wrong things. So there's companies that blend butter with canola oil. Canola oil is not a good oil. They say, oh, it's high in omega-3s. Well, technically, but when certain seed oils, you can't extract the oil without highly refining them. And canola happens to be one of them. To extract that out, I would have to refine it. And then in the refining process, I'm going to denature and destroy the omega-3. Right. Okay. So they're pawning off something like this: butter with canola oil. Don't do it. That's horrible. Look at golden canola, omega-3. Ooh. So they're preying upon your ignorance. If you don't know this, or if you don't do research or have a healthcare practitioner, you're going to be harming yourself. How about just plain old vegetable oil? Doesn't that just sound harmless? What's that fried in? Oh, vegetable oil. Sounds innocuous, but it's not. And this one gets me. U.S. grown 100% soybean oil, heart healthy. I don't know how they can get away with saying that. I guess because they're saying omega-3s, it's heart healthy. But, you could really make a case on this. This is not heart healthy. This is heart harming, big time. Don't touch it. Soybean oil is like, if you look at pesticides, a lot of the pesticides, the first ingredient is soybean oil. All right. Crisco, pure vegetable oil, that's a hydrogenated fat. And then there's trans fats, and basically what it means is that you've added the hydrogen to them, and it's made it into a molecule that the body can't break down. You'll see ingredients like this: enriched flour, riboflavin, sugar, partially hydrogenated vegetable oil, cocoa, cornstarch, hydrogenated oils, artificial colors, flavor, blah, blah. Okay, put it back if it's that. Good fats. Good fats are butter, coconut oil, like butter and ghee. If you have a trouble with dairy, what ghee is just clarified butter. You just melted it, and let the milk fats come to the top, and you scoop them off, and then you have it. Say it can be preserved longer than you can just butter, because you've taken out some of the things that could spoil. Tallow, which is rendered from beef, lard that comes from pork. I already talked about ghee. Those are good fats. They're saturated fats, but saturated fats are good. We've been misled to believe the opposite. They perpetrated polyunsaturated, but that is not good. If you do have plant oils, which are more of those omega-6s as polyunsaturated, sesame oil, walnut oil, extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, grapeseed oil are okay to use. I prefer, if you're cooking things, though, coconut oil, certain butter could burn, at a certain higher amount. That's where ghee would be. Tallow, lard are take the heat a lot more. Sesame oil handles heat a bit. I think grapeseed oil too, when you cook with it, when you bake with it, it's got a more mild flavor. So anyway, these are much better to use in your diet. Now, how to eat. I think we inherently all kind of know how to eat. Hopefully she's got a piece of organic corn here. But you really want to entertain the whole bit about food. We really need to have it much more of a sacred process than we do. We just tend to think we're just going to throw something down the hatch and move on, get back to what I was doing. Got to kind of revisit that a little bit, because this is one of the 3 times of the day that we get to nourish the body temple. So part of this is having the mood, the setting, the mindset, and blessing the food. It only takes a few seconds to bless the food. If you can set a table or have it nice, or a flower or something, that's great. But it's not always, going to happen. Sometimes you're grabbing something, you're out the door, you're taking a meal off, sometimes you're eating out. So sometimes to be able to do that is not always good, but you can always take a couple breaths, be thankful for the food, for all the people that were involved in getting that food to you. That's the fact that, you're grateful that you have this food and that you get to get it and you get to nourish your body. That is huge. All right. Another part about food is we really need to pay attention to getting in quality proteins, good organic fruits and vegetables and fruits. I'll say vegetables first. We don't need a lot of fruit, but they're cleansers and they're good through the seasons. And make sure that they have a high, good healthy fats in them, and that there's a high vitamin mineral content. We don't need a lot of carbs, although they will be woven in the diet. And that's just another whole topic. If you don't get enough quality protein and fat, then that's all left. That's the only thing left, is you get vegetables, fruits. So there's not a lot there, but we need proteins and fat to fuel the body. To build the body. Even though you're grown, you still have to replace muscle. You still have to replace your heart, your brain, your blood, your bones. These are all needing, good, healthy proteins, fats, and minerals to work. Vitamins make reactions happen, but these are builders. And if you, again, if you tend to be a vegetarian, you have less choices. So fermenting things and using that process will help a lot. All right. Breakfast. That's the meal that really should be the biggest of the day. It is, because your body's now, it's been fasting all night. It's been fasting, you should have eaten dinner at 7 o'clock or something. Now you're 6 o'clock, you get up and you're getting ready and you're ready to have breakfast. 7, that's 12 hours. You should be hungry, but most people have to retrain themselves to eat. So if you are, let's just say, go with a good, big, hearty, nice breakfast. Eggs are wonderful. Eggs are a great food, but let me talk about eggs a second. The battery for commercial farmed eggs are in, chickens are either in cages or they're in big, like, greenhouses, right next to each other on a dirt floor. They can be technically called free roaming. So pastured eggs are a much better choice. And to try to make sure that we don't have these huge chicken operations like that, we have more local ones, lots of local ones. So you can buy eggs where chickens run around and get grass and eat bugs and peck and scratch and be out in the sunlight. That, if that's the case, that's one of the best foods that you can eat. There is so much nutrition in an egg. There's really high in vitamin A, really high in good omega-3s, good fats, good sources of protein. And the best way to have an egg is where most of that is, the yolk is more intact. It can be from raw to over easy to poached to soft boiled. Those are the best ways. You can have them like baked in avocado. That's like these pictures here, put different things on them. A sandwich, where it's like cooked, but maybe not real hard. It's still slightly soft. You can have an egg, a breakfast sandwich, an egg sandwich. You could have a, like in a skillet. Then they could be moved on. It doesn't mean that you can't ever have it hard. Hard boiled is great. You can have wonderful hard boiled eggs, deviled eggs, call them angel eggs, egg salad. You could have wonderful omelets and souffles. That's all wonderful, using them in things. Eggs are a good ingredient. More egg ideas, huevos rancheros over a tortilla with salsa on there, baked. You can have, like, if you had to do several people, you can have a little nest of, say, hash browns, and you stick an egg on that and just throw it in the oven. A lot of cultures eat an egg in soup, have a nice hearty bowl of soup with an egg in it. Eggs cooked like spinach and other vegetables, maybe a little meats or cheese, and then the egg in it. Really nice little ideas to, different ways of having eggs. Now, dairy is another group, another protein source. Dairy, yogurt, cream cheese, kefir cheese. Dairy, if you can digest it, that's great. If you have a problem with lactose is in the fresh milk. It's in fresh cheeses like yogurt, yogurt, or cottage cheese, farmer's cheese, fresh cheese. Those all are high lactose. And if you have a problem with that, then the cheese you would do better with an aged cheese. Parmesan, cheddars, anything probably 2 years and beyond. Asiago, the longer that the cheese is aged, the less lactose it has. You may never do good with fresh milk, but this being said, if you were to get raw milk and start training yourself to drink the raw milk has the enzymes to digest itself as well. When we pasteurize it, we start creating problems. So I think culturing the cheese, to make cultured cheese products is ideally the best. And then it helps to undo some of the pasteurization of milk, even organic milk. Now they have to pasteurize it. Too bad they don't have it raw. That's just a stupid thing. We should have it raw. Kefir is cultured. Okay, moving on. If you can't do that, then don't. So breakfast wraps and sandwiches. This can be fast. I love breakfast sandwiches, like an egg over easy, slightly, the yolk is not where it's running all over, but not where it's really hard. I like to have that with maybe lettuce or sprouts, maybe sliced tomatoes, some cheese, maybe a piece of healthy lunch meat or a slice of avocado. Just depends on my mood. Wonderful sandwich. It can be out the door. Even if you have to go somewhere, that can be quickly made. A wrap, a breakfast wrap. Sometimes if, I try to, again, I stay away from wheat. So there's lots of different wraps, lavages. You can even make egg crepes, make crepes, your own crepes with, an egg batter with the millet or brown rice flour, or just the egg itself. And then it can be frozen as well. Blender drinks. If you just can't do that, blender drinks are a great solution. It could be anything something as simple as like a protein powder, undenatured whey or super greens, put in a jar and shaken with water and taken and taken, or some kind of milk of choice and out the door. Or you can make an actual blender drink where you put in, fresh spinach, raw egg, sprouted seeds, sunflower pumpkin seeds that are soaked, maybe, superfoods, moringa, gosh, what else I think of? You don't want to do a lot of fruits when you do proteins. If anything, I would say maybe a few blueberries or berries, low acid type fruit, but you don't want a lot of fruit there because it could, if you got a lot of protein, the fruit, it'll ferment in that mix. So certain digestions can deal with it better. But anyway, that's something just to note. You could sweeten with stevia or other fruits. Other sweeteners as well. Okay, lunchtime. Lunch is like, if you can't, we talked about before, you might psychologically not be ready for a big breakfast. So your next choice would be to have a nice big lunch. And again, making it a protein-based meal. It could be baked chicken, fried chicken, fish. It could be a patty, a hamburger or a bison burger or a turkey burger, or it could be different fish. It could be healthy sandwiches. It could be the Oriental bento box. I love those. You have some kind of meat, maybe just they have some kind of a little rice or some little snacky thing, some sauces, some veg and two kinds of vegetables on there. So that's a really nice thing. I love bento boxes. What else? Little sides of different vegetables, seasonal things, maybe pickles, pickled vegetables, fermented vegetables, kimchi, pickles, sauerkraut. Making your own fermented vegetables would be great, because then you got probiotic rich vegetable with, to help break down the protein. Olives, those are fermented, different cheeses, fresh, what does it say? Feta cheese, if you can digest that. So these are just some ideas. Dinners are basically smaller lunches and easier, lighter. It can also include grilled food, baked foods to build around, soups or casseroles, salads, making something that might be, something for a larger amount of people, where you can bake a whole casserole. Otherwise, you can keep it pretty simple. You can build it around just like soup and salad, or open face sandwich and soup, or open face sandwich and salad, kind of a thing. These are just some ideas. We can go all day on food. More dinner ideas. Fun finger foods are fantastic. One of the things I thought was really cool is Ethiopian concept. They have a grain called teff, and they make the flour out of it, and then they ferment it in mix it with water or whatever, and it starts to ferment. And it's kind of like a sourdough. So it's a nice sourdough type of bread. And then they'll put it on this big griddle, and they make these really thin pancakes, and they'll put several of them on a platter, maybe, I don't know, 8, 10, 12 of them. And then they have different things that they'll stick on them, and you peel off parts of the bread. It's called injera. And then you grab some of the different things on it. It could be like a lentil soup, could be ones like collard greens, ones like a mashed carrots and beans. Another one is a different kind of like what it looks like a little chickpea. Another one is a meat dish, like a meat curry, and then some fresh vegetables. So you use your little pieces of bread, and you grab and you eat this. It's wonderful. I mean, you don't have to eat it like everybody's, but that's how the Ethiopians do it. And if you ever have a chance to try it at Ethiopian restaurant and get the real injera bread made from teff, it's amazing. But fun kind of things. And more dinner ideas, using different approaches to food. Just, stir fries are good. The bottom one is there's a Vietnamese soup called pho, or pho, I think the way it is, PHO. And it's basically a really, really good broth. That's, like a bone broth, because when you refrigerate it, it gels. So that's really rich in collagen. And they'll put a lot of a big glob of rice noodles and whatever meat of choice, different ones, and then a whole bunch of raw stuff on the side, bean sprouts, fresh basil, fresh cilantro, whatever they have, and then maybe some soy sauce or hot sauce or different things, peppers or whatever, lemon or lime, and you kind of put that in on yourself, and it's wonderful. It's like a really good slurpy, light but wonderful soup. Also, ethnic ideas, looking at different ethnic recipes to give you ideas to keep out of food boredom. And this is how I would roll with the ethnic ideas. If you are say like, I'm in Florida and it's winter and it's cold. I mean, we're usually pretty hot here, but we get cold, and that depends on where you're at in Florida. It's like, if it's 29 or something, or 35, at night, and, for the couple cold days, I'm going to look at recipes for more northern climates to see, like, well, what are some good French or Belgium stews, or maybe I'll look at, some New England clam chowder here, or maybe a nice potato soup, something that's hearty, something like that, and use kind of ingredients, in my area, but use that or base that on, what I would want, and have that time of year. Or if, say, you live in Illinois and it's middle of summer and it's really hot, it gets hot there. You might look for some Asian ideas, or maybe some recipes from, Indonesia or hot climates. Look at Yucatan recipes to help, prevent heat, because that's the time that you would want to cool down. Okay, I think this is a good stopping point. Make sure also that you celebrate food. I like this lady, she has this nice picture of somebody having a picnic. We have to embrace having fun with food. It's an experience. It's an experience to put nutrition in and to connect with the fact of, and have it a pleasurable experience. The food should be, you should smell it. It turns on the receptors. You start thinking about it and you smell it. The whole food foreplay is something that we have to have to really create the ambiance, to turn on the digestive juices, to turn on the parasympathetic nervous system, to be able to digest the food and to want it. Don't have upsetting things when you're on your mealtime. Don't be in an upset mood because you put those vibes in it and it kind of recirculates it. Or, if they're, don't have an argument or be in heavy mode, it's like, just kind of make those rules. Like, look, eating is a sanctuary time, and we got to part the waters and have a space, a sacred space, to have good food. All right. Thank you for listening. This is Carrie from Two Bros Healing.